So today I kind of had a theatrical horror movie doubleheader, which is kind of appropriate being the Sunday before Halloween. I can kind of get my last big dose of real Halloween coolness in before everybody starts hanging Christmas decorations. So the first was back at Sunray yet again this month to see the original 1931 Dracula, starring Bela Lugosi, of course. As time's gone on, this has kind of diminished in my opinion compared to some of the other Universal films, but I was still very happy to see it theatrically. There's a lot of things in it I had never noticed before, because all my other viewings of it have been at home with plenty of distractions around. Being in a dark theater without being able to do anything besides watch the movie was actually really nice. I heard people talk about how a lot of key moments in the film are off screen, and I didn't really know what they meant by that, but there are parts. There are characters who die off screen. You see them alive in one scene, the next scene they're doing an autopsy. Still, very enjoyable to watch, very much a movie of its time. There's a very early sound film, there's no music in it beyond the opening credits, so it definitely does not have a very modern feel in the least.
For cell phones.
And the second movie was John Carpenter's original Halloween, which is one I am so happy I had the opportunity to see on a big screen. It was definitely a very different experience. Similar to Dracula, I noticed a lot of things I hadn't seen before, both because the screen was much larger than I'd ever seen it on, and because, well, couldn't be distracted by much of anything, except for the jerk a couple seats beyond me who kept trying to add his 2 cents in, and I wanted to just throw whatever concession items I had at him. There was actually an introduction to the film by John Carpenter, which really just kind of other excerpts from interviews, though it did seem tailored to being for a theatrical screening of the film. And they're talking about, oh, the movie opened on this date, and the guy over there is like, oh yeah, I remember that. And I swear he's straight out of South Park with his damn member berries. But anyway, watching the movie like that was really, really cool. It definitely is my favorite Halloween movie. I don't think any of the other ones really hold a candle to it. And having to focus 100% on the film, there are, once again, little things I'd never noticed before or never really paid much attention to. Weird character quirks that some of them have. I had noticed that BJ Souls keeps saying totally, but hadn't really noticed how totally every total line she totally says totally. There's also the scene where Jamie Lee Curtis sees Michael Myers outside of her bedroom window down with all the sheets on the clothesline. There's a hair on the lens. There's like a hair like flapping around at the bottom of the screen. Never noticed that before. I do actually want to, I just got the new Blu-ray of it. I think I had that in an earlier vlog. I do want to rewatch it. I kind of want to grab my DVD before I sell it off and rewatch that too. Because this movie, Michael Myers was definitely in a kind of charcoal gray suit, jumpsuit. And I had been convinced, I know I have screenshots somewhere, of Michael Myers looking very much like it was that olive green jumpsuit, and I heard that was the true color for a long time. And it does seem like people have moved more over to the side of being a charcoal gray or a dark blue or some kind. Yeah, I really want to do some comparison now and see which one's the true color of the jumpsuit. I know that topic will be debated forever, but it really kind of messed with my memory seeing it like that. Absolutely awesome. I couldn't have asked for a better movie to lead into the actual day of Halloween, especially because I've been so Michael Myers centric this month. It was just a great experience. If you ever have the opportunity to go see it theatrically, I would highly recommend doing it without any hesitation. If there's another screening next year or any time in between now and then, I will definitely try to get there. Okay, so this is my old copy of Halloween on DVD. The Anchor Bay, I think it's a 2007 release of this movie, and this probably isn't going to look too good because of how I'm capturing this, but this is the scene where Michael Myers stops the kid outside of the school, and to my eye, that jumpsuit does distinctly have a green hue to it. And then here is the 35th anniversary Blu-ray. I think it's also from Anchor Bay, 2013 release, and that is definitely a much darker looking jumpsuit, a much less green, more bluish gray looking jumpsuit. So I can see where the confusion does come from. I really only owned Halloween on that one DVD prior to getting this Blu-ray. I never had it on VHS or anything back in the day. So it wasn't really that noticeable to me as to what color Michael Myers' jumpsuit was. But yeah, if you're a complete dork like me and like looking at this kind of detail, that is definitely a difference between the newer version and older version. So I kind of screwed up with some unboxings because I didn't know what was actually in them.
And yeah, the first box I opened here on Halloween night, as appropriate as it is the Trick or Treat Studios L-Rod knife. Like the other knives, it's a foam knife. This is the serrated kind of bread knife that Michael picks up at the beginning of part 2. And then in this package is a couple things that I'd ordered from Beyond Disgusting Studios, along with that Rob Zombie Halloween 2 knife. So these are actually mask replicas of the hoods worn by Jason Voorhees. So I honestly couldn't tell you which one's which here at the moment, but one of them is a part 2. I'm inclined to think it's this one, and the other is actually from the remake. Everywhere I've looked, I've seen latex copies of these masks, but I've never actually seen cloth ones available until I saw their site. So I figured I'd pick them up and see how they are. So I realized I completely forgot when I was filming those unboxings to show off the actual products unboxed or fully unpackaged. So this is the L-Rod knife. I mean, not much you couldn't see in the actual package, but it's nice. It's definitely looks like a bread knife. It has a very different feel than some of the other props, other knives or whatever. But I think they did a pretty good job on it. For being foam, it's a little thick because it kind of has to be, but I do like it. I've been keeping it up here with my original and part 2 mask, just because it's easier to put this one down here because it fits with more of them. And here are the 2 Jason bag masks. The part 2, they're on the left, and the remake there on the right. And I'm really, really happy with how these came out. I think they look phenomenal. Right now they're just on foam wig heads like I had the Michael Myers masks. And the shape of them looks pretty good. You kind of have that double plume of the potato sack up here. One side's a little more accented than the other, but that works okay. There's some nice weathering on here to really make them look dirty and worn. The tire on the neck looks good. The hole for the eye looks really nice. They fit me pretty well. I was actually messing around wearing them a bit, and yeah, I like the way they fit. The remake one requires a little more research, I guess, to figure out. There's 2 kind of loose pieces. There's this big wide piece here, and you have a skinnier piece. Both kind of come about of the back of the head. So you have to really look and see how they wrap around. I think this is right. The kind of diagonal stripe here for this, and then the tie around the neck. And you have a lot billowing up here at the bottom. This also has a hole in there. There's some kind of rough stitching on it. There's a lot of dirt and wear, a lot more than was on the part 2. And yeah, I am super happy with both of these. They weren't really expensive, pretty much what you'd pay for a mask from Trick or Treat Studios or something. And since so many other options that are equally expensive are inaccurate in the fact that they're rubber masks as opposed to actual cloth pieces, this was exactly what I wanted for my Friday the 13th display. I am more interested in having prop replicas than I am necessarily just having masks. So this fits the bill very, very nicely. I didn't realize this dork was laying here on the bed behind me the whole time I was filming. And since he hasn't been in the vlog yet this month, he's getting thrown in here now.
So all the horror movies I bought over this Halloween season, I decided I would take them all off my shelf, get everything back in order, and put all the new movies up with the old. A lot of stuff I've upgraded, other things are brand new to the collection. So it felt appropriate to go ahead and do this. The way I have all my movies organized on my shelf is by subgenre. With non-horror movies, it's more broad. Action movies, comic book based movies, sci-fi movies, things like that. But with horror, I got stupidly specific just because I'm a nerd and that's what I do. So we have all these different categories of movies, and it's kind of funny to see them stacked up like this because you could really see which type of movies I get more of. So starting from the left, you see the tiny little pile there at the edge of the couch. I have animal-based horror movies, then we go with anthologies, post-apocalyptic, which only has 1 movie in it, demons, documentaries, Hammer horror films, Christmas horror films, Stephen King films, Mad Scientist films, monster movies, 1 single mummy movie there in the middle of the giant towers, realistic horror movies, 2 giant piles there full of slasher movies, a big pile and a quickly growing smaller pile of supernatural movies. You can't even see the trauma stack down there, it's pretty short. Then Universal monster movies, vampire movies, werewolf movies, and zombie movies. And in case anybody's wondering, things like the Universal Dracula go in with the Universal horror movies, they don't go in with vampires. I kind of have it all in this weird logic that makes sense to me, and as long as it makes sense to me, that's all that really matters. But I do think it's funny that the slasher pile is so gigantic. And the supernatural movies, while I do like quite a few of them, I think it's just as big as it is just because those movies get made so much more, especially lately because they're cheap.
So, I wanted to know how you guys find new horror movies. I guess movies in general, but specifically horror movies because that's what this is kind of about here. Because I feel like I haven't been able to find as many new titles as I used to be able to. And granted, you know, the more you know, the further you go back in history of horror films, you kind of run out of the somewhat lesser known movies and you have to move into the more really lesser known movies. But even just new stuff coming out, I feel like when I see a new horror movie, it's one of the bigger budget or more well produced Hollywood type things, not so many indie horror films anymore. Usually when I gamble on an indie horror movie lately, it's been just utter crap. But I know there's gotta be good ones out there. You know, there was a period of time, a few years back, that I felt like I kind of had the whole world of lesser known horror stuff opened up to me. And at the time was when I was finding out about a lot of older movies I'd missed, things like The Burning and Madman and really cool 80s stuff that just wasn't Freddy and Jason and that kind of thing. And then on the other hand, the more modern stuff like Hatchet and Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon and that kind of stuff that was coming out around that time. And now it seems like everything I find that's really new is Paranormal Activity ripoffs or Blumhouse things like Sinister and Insidious and all that. And I mean, while I have those movies, they're not what I really want out of horror. So yeah, what do you guys do to find new cool horror movies? Is it just going through Netflix or Amazon and just watching whatever kind of looks good? You know, are there horror sites or something I'm not following? Everything I've looked at, a lot of the big horror sites I feel are just very non-discriminating. So they report on everything, and then most of the things that look interesting article-wise end up just being clickbait bullshit. So yeah, I'd love to know, or if you have some good recommendations that maybe I haven't heard of. I definitely appreciate some cool recommendations.
So I think the first week of December, when Spooky Empire does their makeup con for the one that was canceled because of the hurricane, I may actually attempt to do a cosplay there as part 3 Jason, just because it's kind of a pretty easy one to throw together. I've got the shirt for it. Obviously I have the mask. That's my JDF Studios mask I was wearing, which is the easiest mask I have to wear, the most comfortable and most lightweight. And I'm going to get something much better than this stupid mask for the underhood. I actually already ordered something, and I'm just hoping it comes in time. This is a great example of what not to do for something like this. I cut the back horribly and then it ripped, because I didn't know you're supposed to put like a hole at the top of it, I guess, to stop it from ripping. But I also, once it did rip, I put a staple in it to try to seal it back up, which, as I was just wearing it now, was digging into the back of my skull. So that's not really fun. Plus, this doesn't really look anything like Part 3 Jason. I actually use this as an under mask for a baby face from The Hills Run Red, which kind of works because it has the screwed up jaws, even though it has fangs, because it's some like weird zombie mask. Just a cheap Spirit Halloween thing. But I had tried to do baby face as a cosplay at Spooky Empire a couple years ago, and I didn't really realize what that experience would actually be like, and it didn't go so well for me. So this time I am planning to actually go to the con, enjoy the con, get the autographs I want, all that stuff, then actually go back to my car, change, put all my extra stuff that I've picked up back in the car, and then go and do the cosplay, because trying to do both at the same time just did not work at all. But as far as I know, that's probably where I'm going to pick back up with this vlog. Some people have expressed interest. I guess they've actually enjoyed these episodes, which is cool because I've enjoyed making them. But to be quite honest, I kind of was semi-artificially cramming more stuff into October. I mean, granted, it was a busy month for me, but I felt like I was really just pushing to come up with things to put in the vlog, exciting things to do, and at the end I feel like it just kind of became me getting packages and going to see movies. But I mean, that's kind of my life anyway. So I'm not gonna bother doing any more for the month of November, even though it is November when I'm putting this in there. But yeah, I think I'll pick back up in December with Spooky Empire.
after seeing Ghost, and this was my second time seeing them, but the first time since I've actually gotten into their music, so I enjoyed it quite a lot more than the first time I saw them. I will say they had the worst opening act I've ever seen at a concert. Not worse as in they were bad, but worst as in they were boring. They were so goddamn boring, and every song sounded exactly the same. They were super, super low energy, and as a thing to like get a crowd excited for the headliner, they just failed miserably. I mean, everybody stayed seated while they played, which I will say, one thing I hate about this venue, it's the Florida Theater up here in Jacksonville, and yeah, they have seats. You have assigned seats. So this is the second time I've been there. I saw this show and I saw Alice Cooper about a year ago, and it just drives me nuts because it's like, I don't know, it's no fun. I want to be in the pit. I want to, you know, be getting thrown around and bashing into people and being crazy and all that stuff, and I don't get that at a show at that venue. But most of the venues in Jacksonville have been closing, it seems. So more and more I'm going down to Orlando for shows anyway, or up to Atlanta. But besides that first band, I was actually kind of like really worried. I don't know, it just was a bad start to everything. But it almost seemed like Ghost made up for it, or maybe it was intentional. Maybe they purposely got a band that was like super low energy, so when they came on stage, it was like, holy crap, this is crazy. But last time I saw Ghost, the first time I'd ever seen them, I hadn't heard much of their music, if any, by that point. I saw them at Welcome to Rockville, a large outdoor festival in Jacksonville in July, I think it was, or June or so. It was friggin' summer. I mean, it still feels like friggin' summer and it's November, but it was hot as all hell when I saw them. And, you know, outside in the bright sunlight, they're a band, if you don't know them, that wears, well, the lead singer is like almost like an evil pope, and he wears kind of corpse paint, like the black and white, skullish looking makeup. And the other band members are all known as the Nameless Ghouls, and they wear really cool looking, or at least this version of them is really cool looking, these like silver demon masks, which I really like. It actually reminds me of the movie Demon a little bit, and just every other horror movie. But they have a very almost 70s horror theme, even in their videos. I get a lot of like Rosemary's Baby and The Omen and stuff kind of vibe off of them. They, you know, a lot of their music's satanic sounding and all that stuff, but it also has like a very strange 70s feel to it, which is intriguing. So the first time I saw them, I had a hard time getting into them because I'm like, I'm expecting at least King Diamond level metal, if not full on, you know, Immortal level black metal or some crap like that. And that's definitely not what they are. So I was kind of like, the visual of it was not matching up with the sound I thought they would make. But I've gotten more into their music, and seeing it in a very dark theater where they have crazy lighting effects and smoke effects and have more control over their environment, it was awesome. It was just a phenomenal show. They sounded great. They put on a very good show. Like I said, very high energy. The set list flowed really well. They hit pretty much every song I would have wanted them to do. And yeah, just a freaking fantastic set. A very fun concert. And even before this, 2016 has been a record year for me in terms of seeing live shows. Granted, the number's not nearly as high as I thought it would have to be record breaking. I guess I felt like I went to a lot more concerts when I lived down in Orlando, but yeah, I'm actually left kind of debating what else I'm gonna see this year. There's 2 more shows I want to hit, so I'll see if work will let me skip a few days. I've got plenty of time off to use.